Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first video from the 40/40 Club with your hosts, Bram, and myself, Sheldon. And today we're going to be reviewing the Yankees series with Toronto. And then right after that, we're going to get into the pitching of the Toronto Blue Jays and what we think about where they stand and what they can do moving forward. And then we're going to talk about Rowdy Tellez, very popular between both of us here, and we'll end it with a very special Jackie Robinson. We'll speak about Jackie, the importance of Jackie to the game and to both of us in particular. So, Bram, you're the master of ceremonies.
Thank you. I just want to tell our viewers thank you for watching, and this is a podcast about Blue Jays and baseball by guys over 40. And for the 40/40 Club, for everyone. And thank you to both of you who are watching and listening. The Jays, they came back and won today yesterday, I should say, against the New York Yankees. They took 2 out of 3, which is pretty good for a team that is experiencing a lot of injuries and who has still a few question marks in the pitching rotation. Yesterday, Ross Stripling was scratched from start, and then we had an emergency start by TJ Zoik, who went 4 innings, gave up 4 runs, but we came out on top. We had 2 home runs by Dante Bichette, including the walk-off win. We had other home runs in the game. So what are your thoughts on the team, on the Jays right now, and how we're doing?
I think taking the two out of 3 from the Yankees was pretty important, given the fact that the Yankees are struggling. So that's what you're supposed to do as a good team. Beat up on the teams that are struggling. Stanton hasn't hit. Judge seems to be their only offensive player. Their defense is hit and miss, and so is their pitching. So they did exactly what they needed to do. They took to the Yankees and they beat them. Seeing Bo start to swing the bat the way he's capable of swinging, especially the move from the number 2 spot, he's really started to flourish. He ended up being the player that we saw in the last year and a half, when 2019 and 2020. Vladdy batting 3rd. I mean, he's been very, very consistent. I was kind of reluctant to see him bat 3rd. I wanted to see him bat 5th, hoping that there's a head and we'll get some fastballs to hit. But the moves paid off. Offensively, they look a little bit better. But there's some issues with that team offensively, and with the pitching staff right now. It looks like 3 solid starters with Hyun-Jin Ryu, Steven Matz, and Robbie Ray. Even though it was only 1 start. TJ Zoik, he was thrown into an emergency situation. He won 4 innings. He gave us exactly what we could hope for. In terms of pitches, he only threw like 62 in 4 innings. That's not too bad. That's pretty good. But he did give a couple of 4 runs. So I wouldn't be surprised moving forward that we're going to have one of those 5 starts in the rotation be almost like a bullpen day, unless they decide to call up Anthony Kay or someone who they feel 5 or 6 innings. At the moment, it's 3 starters, and the other 2 starters are just going to be kind of plugging in somebody to do something. What do you think?
Well, yeah. So I did read today that Nate Pearson has started throwing yesterday, Wednesday, and didn't have any pain. So that's a good sign. He's had 2 major injuries, I believe, so already in his career. I think 2 surgeries. And there's a lot of, like, the Jays are really high on him. He's one of the top prospects in baseball. And but I don't know if they can count on him right now, but that is a good sign. But in the meantime, in the short term, what do you think of Zoik starting again? It may not be more than 4 innings at all, but maybe, like you said, patching together a bullpen. What other options do the Jays have right now? I mean, we don't know. I haven't heard what the status is with Stripling, but I think he had at least 1 good start so far.
Right now, if you go with those 3, Hyun-Jin Ryu, Matz, and probably Ray. And if you can, if TJ Zoik is your fourth starter, you can live with it. He can give you 5 innings, and hopefully, when you give up 3 runs, I mean, the goal of TJ Zoik right now is to eat innings, and eat as many innings as he possibly can and pitch decent. He's not going to be a number 2 or a number 1 starter, but his stuff plays out as a number 4, and I can live with him as a number 4.
Do you think they can stretch him out to maybe 5 innings? Or
Possibly,
you think
possibly.
he's kind of limited there? Yeah.
I mean, he was at 60 today, so there is a possibility he can go 80, 90. And pitches per inning was around 15, just a shade over 15. So if he had pitched another 2 innings, that would take him straight to 90, and that would have been 6 innings. Other than that, right now, especially at the beginning of the season, they have 3 starters who are effective, and then have TJ Zoik as number 4 starter. And if 5 starter happens to be Rod Stripling, and you have Tanner Rourke piggybacking from behind, then
Yeah, I like the piggybacking
then
in the absence of
yeah,
a solid
they-
rotation. Yeah.
yeah, you probably live with it for the time being. What about the bullpen? What do you think?
Well, we've had some solid strengths, but there, of course, are also question marks. I think the bullpen, at least at the start of the season, was better than the rotation. We had like 2 saves and I think 3 solid appearances with no runs given up by Julian Merriweather, and he goes on the DL. And he's also, I think, had 2 major injuries, possibly 2 surgeries. So, I mean, he's been a starter before. If and when he does come back, which who knows, I mean, he may be gone for the season, he may be back in 10 days. We don't know. But if he can come back, I'm thinking it might be a good idea to keep him in that role in short relief, since he appears to be a little bit brittle or at least susceptible to injuries early on. I do think that, of course, the Jays lost the closer that they signed, Kirby Yates, to a big 1 year plus an option contract. They lost him in spring training. It looks like he's out for the season with another injury. But I think they have enough in their bullpen, enough power arms between Ryan Borucki and David Phelps and Jordan Romano from Markham here next to Toronto. And of course, did I mention Rafael Dolis? So I think they really probably have the last 2 or 3 innings covered. Not every day though. That's one thing I want. I hope that Pete Walker, who's regarded by many as one of the best pitching coaches, and manager Charlie Montoyo, I think they need to be careful and not burn those guys out by the All-Star break. They need to. I mean, I think Charlie has done a great job in his 2 years plus as a Jays manager so far in managing rotation. But I think we're okay patching together the bullpen, the rest of the bullpen plus those arms right now.
Yeah, well said. I think the bullpen, as it stands right now, you're probably gonna go by bullpen by committee. So Merriweather comes back, and even then, it's not even it's not in concrete that he's going to be your closer. Could be the Leafs one game, could be Thornton another game, it could be somebody else another game. They're
Phelps.
yeah, it could be one of those guys. They do have 3 lefties in the bullpen at the moment. They have Meza, Berkey, and Tommy Malone.
That's right.
So and Tommy, and Tommy Malone could end up being a starter or a spot starter.
What a nice surprise! He's
Yeah.
been a couple appearances last year, I think, maybe 1
Mhm.
appearance, and then this year, yeah.
So he's an option to be a starter, or someone who could do long relief in the bullpen. Once we start getting guys like Chatwood and a few others coming back, I think the bullpen will be a bit more of a strength. The credit to Charlie Montoya, he's been doing a very good job with the bullpen, and hopefully it continues. You don't burn these guys out. I mean, I know they have arms and alternative site, but still, I mean, they've been doing well, pretty well at the moment.
For sure. I'm stoked about this team, especially compared to our Raptors, who have jumped out of a plane without a parachute, it seems. The Jays have been racking up their share of injuries. I mean, we have, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is back, but they now have Teoscar Hernandez on the disabled list. And was it, it was COVID-19, I believe.
Yeah.
So we don't know how long he could be out. I mean, everybody responds to this horrible disease differently. Some people are back to work in no time, and some people are very sick. I tend to think that athletes, because they keep their bodies in such fine condition, uh, seem to be strong and seem to be able to fight it off. You never know, though. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
So going forward, and it looks like actually we'll have um, finally, hopefully, the debut of George Springer next Monday. Is it Monday or Tuesday?
Monday, next Monday
It's
or
it's
Tuesday. But
possible.
I
Yeah,
mean,
he's not going with them on the road trip to Kansas City this
yeah,
weekend, but that should be a shot in the arm. It seems that Palacios and Jonathan Davis have done a good job of filling in, but nobody thinks they're long-term solutions. Nobody thinks they should be starting every day in the event that everyone is healthy. But I'm kind of enthused about the speed and the sort of the aggression those two guys have been showing. As on a fill-in basis so far. But yeah, the injuries are starting to mount, but some people are hitting the panic button already. I say it's still early, and I think there's lots of teams with lots of injuries, which actually leads me to another point that I want to ask you about. Someone today told me that, or yesterday told me that it seems that there's now more injuries in baseball than ever before. Now, I haven't done a statistical comparison. I haven't looked at any study, and they were saying they think it's because uh, players are just um, not as well tuned. And another friend said that it's the technology. And my feeling is that like they're being overworked. My feeling is just, especially when it comes to pitchers, you have a lot of pitchers on the disabled list around baseball, and I think it's just this is the most unnatural movement in there is for the human body is throwing a pitch at 90 miles an hour, and it's going to do a lot of wear and tear on your shoulder, on your elbow, and all the ligaments and joints and so forth that are in there. And I don't think it's quite surprising. I'm not sure if there are any more injuries now. We do have larger rosters, and maybe that's a factor. Maybe we're just noticing it more. But I think we'll be okay. I think there's enough depth on this team to get through the injuries they have.
mhm.
Of course, we'd love to see, as you said, we only really have three starters you can necessarily depend on. You got to win the ones that Hyunjin Ryu pitches. That's just said. You got to, and he's been great. He's been everything expected last year and this year. But everybody's saying the Jays need a starter. It's too early, really. Nobody's trading anything. Everybody wants to see what they have, and that usually takes, I think, at least a quarter of a season. I have confidence in Ross Atkins and in Mark Shapiro that if and when the time comes, maybe approaching the trade deadline, if needed, which it seems right now like it's needed, that they would pull a trade, that they would pull off something to get a starter, maybe two. But I think we got to hold steady for at least another month, 6 weeks, and maybe 2 months, and see what we have. But I think they're in a good position to do that.
I think right now, being 6-6, and they didn't even haven't even done 10% of the season yet, so it's kind of early to even talk
Exactly.
about trades. And like you said, no one's going to be trading anyone. And if they're going to be trading anyone, they probably want more than what you're willing to give up as if you're the Jays. But as of right now, there's really no panic. They're not 1 and
Just Joe,
11. Yeah,
just Joe
yeah,
panic.
just relax. Yeah, just relax, man. That's all you got to do. Um, let's move on to one of our favorite players, Mr. Rowdy Telez.
Rowdy Tellez. So yes, he is one of my favorite players, and not just because he and I are both Jewish, but I had the opportunity to see him a couple of years in spring training in Dunedin a few years ago, and man, he just hits moonshots. A lot of people are on him. He had a slow start to the season. They're saying get rid of him. He's no good, but he is a genuine slugger. His numbers coming into the season over the course of like 169 games. He had something like 92 RBIs and like 33, 35 home runs. Again, I don't have the stats in front of me, but power numbers that are good, that like that for a whole season are not a dime a dozen. And especially someone who hits tape measure shots, who hits long balls out of the ballpark, sometimes completely out of the ballpark. So um, he is starting to come around. He hit his first home run of the season on Tuesday. And in the last three games, I believe he is 4 for 12. So I think he will come around. Nobody's saying that he doesn't need to be more selective at the plate. He certainly does. He chases too many pitches outside the zone. He's obviously a good fastball hitter, as most power hitters are, but I think there's nothing you can do with him. Just keep him in the lineup, and he will come around eventually. And he'll get hot, and he'll carry the Jays some days. This reminds me of, this leads me to actually another player that I'll quickly mention and then throw it back to you. Randall Grichuk. He has been carrying the club so far. He's been hot. He is starting to cool off. We know he's a streaky player. He's been batting cleanup. You would like to see Vlad hit fifth. Maybe he'll hit fourth, but it depends on what players we have. I think if Tellez gets hot and move him up, and maybe start to move Grichuk down. So what are your thoughts on Tellez and Grichuk?
I think Tellez's playing time is going to really depend on Teoscar Hernandez and Randall Grichuk. To a lesser degree, maybe Lourdes Gurriel. Because if Lourdes doesn't get himself out of the slump that he's in, you could conceivably see Teoscar Hernandez in left field and Randall Grichuk in right field. And if Rowdy's hot, Rowdy will be either the first baseman or the DH. Chris Springer, once he comes back, he's healthy. He's not going to be moved out of the center field spot unless he's taking a day off. If Teoscar's healthy and performing, if Lourdes is healthy and performing, and Randall is performing well, then it's a pleasant problem for the Jays to have. You could
It's a good problem to have.
Yep, you could platoon Rowdy and Randall, Rowdy versus righties, and Randall Grichuk versus lefties. But as of right now, if you were going to put the lineup tomorrow, Rowdy's in your lineup and Randall's in right field, or you can go with Randall in center, and Palacios and Davis in right, and have them platoon until Springer's ready. But once everybody's back, you're gonna have to ride the hot hand, and we know that Teoscar can be streaky. We know that Randall is streaky. We know Rowdy is streaky. We know that Lourdes Gurriel starts slow and then comes halfway through May to the end of June. Lourdes starts hitting home runs, and he starts hitting for an average, and his OPS goes above 900. So it's one of those things where it's a pleasant problem to have. They're still early in the season. Who knows what could happen? Maybe somebody gets hurt, and we won't be talking about who's going to be taking what spot. Everybody will be in the lineup.
Let's hope. Fingers crossed.
And then let's not forget that, not to knock Kevin Biggio, but if Kevin starts to continue slumping or goes back to struggling, it's an extreme possibility, but Vladdy could move over to third base and Rowdy could take over first. So they have a few options there. I mean, it's the benefit of these young players being multi-positional is that you kind of move them around from time to time.
Rays ball. Tampa Rays
style
baseball.
It's Tampa Rays style baseball, and it works for them. And their players that they have there in Tampa, they understand that they may not be playing the same position every single day. The Jays here, Vladdy, Joe Panic, even Kevin Biggio himself can all understand that they may not be playing the same position every day. Vladdy, to a lesser degree, I don't think they want to touch Vladdy right now because the way he's hitting.
And fielding, he's been, that's there's an article in the paper yesterday, that stretch. He's really improved on that.
He's playing incredibly well. He's the player that we all thought he would be.
He's developing into it, let's say. Yeah.
So let's move on to the final topic.
Quick minor point though, Davis, if he's in the game, he's always going to play center field. I remember Charlie saying that. I remember Buck Martinez saying that because he is by far the best center fielder, outfielder in the organization. So there may be a rare chance where Springer's in right and Davis in center. But yes, if everybody's healthy, Springer in center. I don't think
you'll see Springer in right. I honestly don't think so. I think he'll be center or he'll be DHing to rest himself.
I just think if Davis is on the roster and it's a defensive replacement to save the lead late in the game, you might see Davis in center. But yeah, if everybody's healthy, then Davis is back with Buffalo, I guess.
Yeah. The way Palacios,
the
way Palacios is playing, it kind of makes you think that it's that final spot be one of those two guys. So let's move on to Jackie Robinson, who's going to be important to us.
Happy Jackie Robinson Day, everybody. So I only know, I think I read a children's book about Jackie Robinson when I was a kid. It was just before I actually was a baseball fan. And I saw the movie with Chad Boseman, great movie. And I've read one of the biographies on him. I am just grateful that you know he was the first one. He was the person to do it, and it opened the door for tons of talented ball players from all races and all colors to play in baseball. And of course, there's that Montreal connection. I think he played a season with the Montreal Royals, who were then a farm team of the Brooklyn Dodgers. But yeah, I think it's important that they retired the number 42 on all the baseball clubs, and that we honor him this way. I do have a funny story to tell you relating to Jackie Robinson Day, but I want to throw it to you. I want to ask you, what does Jackie Robinson mean to you as a baseball fan and also as a person of color? What is the significance and meaning of Jackie Robinson Day to you?
I think with Jackie Robinson, he was one of the first players outside of the Toronto Blue Jays that I actually showed an interest in because I wasn't too. I always heard about him, but I didn't know too much about him other than the fact he was the first player to break the color barrier. But to find out everything he had to go through, and I always look at it as, if there was no Jackie Robinson, there would be no Dave Parker, there would be no Joe Morgan, there would be no Tony Fernandez, there would be no Roberto
Winfield,
Clemente. Yeah, I mean the
go on and
players,
on and on.
yeah, the players that I idolized growing up, and I still do to this day. It's Tony Fernandez, Roberto Clemente, Jackie Robinson. They were all, huge, huge influences into me playing the game, especially Tony Fernandez. But
Yep,
like I
he
said,
was one of my
yeah,
favorites too, Tony. I met him
like
once
yeah.
briefly at an
So like
autograph session.
so like I was saying, if there was no Jackie Robinson, there would have been no Tony Fernandez, and there probably wouldn't be no me playing the game, whether it be baseball or softball, because there wouldn't be anyone that I could probably I wouldn't say necessarily relate to, but someone who I can idolize, um, or someone who could grab my attention. So Jackie's importance to the game, and we talk about the game, but just the importance to society, it was huge. I mean, integration. That's all you got to say is integration. And baseball being America's pastime, to have integration in that sport and to have Jackie break down those barriers, and to allow people of color to play the game at the major league level, even though we were playing it before. We were playing in the neighborhood leagues. We were playing all over the place, but be accepted into the majors. Jackie is incredibly important. So I'm happy that they retired number 42. Personally, I think I would like to see them retire number 21 for Roberto Clemente, the importance it had for Latin America, and being multiracial, if you want to say that, because of my Spanish background as well. Roberto Clemente was very huge for me. I was very fortunate. My mom telling me that when she moved to Montreal, she knew who Roberto Clemente was, because she followed the Expos and Pirates and Expos, Pirates and Expos. She knew who they were, and she knew who he
Great.
was. So the importance of Jackie, uh, you know, is always will always be felt from every player, particularly those of color. Um, had to go through to pave the road for players like myself, and people younger than me, and younger players, and for the end of time. Jackie will always be one of those individuals that you put on Mount Rushmore. If you have Mount Rushmore baseball, Jackie Robinson would be one of them. Important. And I think I'll leave it at that. I want to get too involved into it, but I'll leave it at that, because that's how important Jackie is. I don't think there's enough that I can say to describe the importance of Jackie Robinson to anybody. You just have to read it, watch it, listen to people who watch him play, listen to baseball players who hold him in high esteem, and you'll hear the emotion in their voices. That's how important Jackie Robinson is. Yeah.
Well said. Well said, Sheldon. So I'll tell you my quick story. So one day, many years ago, I don't remember how many, but I go to the dome. I think it was the dome, it could have been an exhibition stadium, but anyways, let's say, you know, Jose Bautista comes out on the field or whoever it was, and it's like, oh, I said to my friend, oh, I guess he changed his number. It was early in the season, and then like you know, Kevin Pillar comes out and was like, oh, I guess Kevin changed his number too, as well. I don't remember numbers anymore. I did when the in the World Series winning years, and then there's like who else was on that team? Josh Donaldson. I'm like, oh, I guess Josh Donaldson changed his number, and then I start to notice that all the numbers were the same. They were 42. And then the gentleman next to us goes, "It's Jackie Robinson Day, dummy." I was like, "Oh," hadn't even looked at the date, I guess.
Yeah, I personally like to see Major League Baseball hype it up a little bit more. I mean, we shouldn't be waiting till day to know about Jackie Robinson Day. I think, I mean, that you know, the beginning of the month should be some of that, again, because of his importance. We talked about. But
Sure.
I mean, again, you know, a lot of the younger people, I don't know how much they or what they feel about Jackie Robinson. But a lot of, you know, like myself and your age and my age, and you know, we understand the importance of Jackie Robinson. So you know,
Can't be overstated.
yeah, it's just one of
Yeah.
those things where, you know, he's one of those people that you want to talk about someone who made a change to the world and who changed to the world, legitimately changed the world. Jackie Robinson was one of them. So,
Well said.
yeah.
And I
So
like your idea about honoring Roberto Clemente that way.
yeah, let me tell you, I'll be just before we cut out, to tell you a little bit about Roberto Clemente. After the stories my mom told me, especially when I was a little kid, you know, growing up, you know, in Toronto, and her, you know, living in Montreal and moving to Toronto, you know, it was hockey. But you know, she told me the story about Roberto Clemente and how he used to throw. And then, you know, I saw a player by the name of Jesse Barfield, and my mom said, Jesse Barfield's as close to Roberto Clemente when it comes to throwing. And she goes, and even then, he's not as good as him, but he's close. And even though I love Tony Fernandez, the guy that I tried to copy was Jesse Barfield, because I wanted to throw like Jesse Barfield. He was, you know, Jesse Barfield was the closest thing to Roberto Clemente. And as I got a little bit older and I started to more research on Roberto Clemente, and especially with, you know, technology we have today, it's not hard to find stuff on people. And when I found out that there was Roberto Clemente, I bought it. And to be quite honest, I never actually opened it. I just left it in the corner, and it's just put away there because it's something that, like I said, I never read it, but it's just something that I hold dearly. And maybe one day I will read it. But it's kind of like, it's one of those things that you just don't want to touch. It's kind of sacred. And
It's in your shrine, your souvenir shrine room.
yeah, that's basically what it is. It's there. Um, I never got a chance to see him play. I know the stories of what he did for, you know, the community and in Pittsburgh, and what he did for the people of Latin America, and it's huge. You know, so hopefully one day, maybe 21, you know, gets the treatment that similar treatment to what Jack Robinson got. You know, there's people who come into the world, and they use their position to make better players, or they try and put a good example in, you know, Jackie Robinson, and to a lesser, you know, to another degree, Roberto Clemente were the two. So hopefully see it one day. So that
Yeah,
would
and
be.
that's why they named that award after him, for
Hmm.
community service and philanthropy.
Hmm.
He'll always be immortalized that way.
Hmm.
But I like your idea of the additional honor of retiring his number. And
Yeah,
I mean, he is in the Hall of Fame, but more people should know. And he makes probably tons, hundreds, thousands of you know, Latin American, South American ball players proud. I'm sure he was the first. He was the Jackie Robinson for them. And we've had so many great players from all over the Caribbean and Central and South America.
yeah, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
you know, I have not had the fortune of reading a biography, and now I want to go out and buy one.
Yeah, you could.
For right on my.
You can get it from Amazon. I don't think I have it here at the moment. Yeah, Amazon has it. Indigo Chapters, you can find it. A few years old now, but it's one of those things that I'm pretty sure if you read it, you'll get a sense of who the man is. I mean, I've read other things about him, and just understanding the essence of the man himself. And I've read stuff on Jackie as well, and to understand the essence of what those men went through. If you have an opportunity to meet somebody, especially if they're a baseball player, those were the two people I would want to meet. Jackie, Roberto, and I never got the opportunity to meet Tony Fernandez in person, but Tony Fernandez would be the other one that I would. Anyway, might as well close this off. This was a pretty good for our first time. It wasn't too bad. It was kind of looked at time and everything else, and we kind of ran through this pretty quickly for two guys at 1 o'clock in the morning putting this together. So for everybody listening, everybody watching, the one or two people or three, hopefully we have three.
And the check is the checks are in the mail.
Yes, I have $1 to give you.
Well, yeah, this is, as I said at the top, it's a podcast by 40 somethings for all baseball fans, baseball and Blue Jays. And in the coming episodes, we're hoping to do this twice a week about to cap the previous series and preview the next one. The Jays will be in Kansas City this weekend for, I think, 4 games. And we're hoping to, at some point, have some guest panelists, also probably over 40. Sheldon and I, between us, we have over 75 years, I think, of baseball fanhood, and being a couple of guys I've talked to, it could be double that, or even more. But anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for watching. I'm Bram Aaron.
And everyone, thank you for tuning in for us. And again, we'll see us probably at the end of every series. We'll get together and we'll talk about certain things about the series, and highlight a player as well. And hopefully, we'll continue this throughout the season. Other than that, everyone take care, and we'll see you at another time.
Stay safe.
Stay safe, everyone.